We're live on the Lawyers and Podcast show. And ladies and gentlemen, we basically, we've been doing it. We've been on it. And I want to go live because everybody else have already talked about the support, the loss in support that Joe Biden got with black voters. And tonight, I also want to basically, give my little 2 cents, as I often do. You've been listening, you always got to tune in when the Lawyers and Podcast show come on. It is very much appreciated because we know that YouTube does not like real truth. Okay, YouTube do not like the fact that we just basically got a difference in music. So I want to basically welcome you to the Lawyer Henderson Podcast show. And tonight, the Lawyers and Podcast show is live. And here we are live. We're talking about the loss of support that Joe Biden has among black people. You're listening to the Lawyers and Podcast show. Joe Biden is losing black support, and he can't use the scary Donald Trump anymore. You gave him 3.5 years, and he's already screwing up, as we know that the Democrats would. But that doesn't mean that the Republicans are any better. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining the Lawyers and Podcast show. We're live. Listening to the Lawyers and Podcast show. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. ScrewTube got me on a permanent. They got me on a permanent shadow ban. In other words, you don't know when I'm coming on. You don't know when I'm going to go live. You don't know nothing because ScrewTube got me in a shadow ban for life. They said, look here, nigga, you are not going to be, nobody's going to be notified when you come on. We're not going to give you no notification to your subscribers. In fact, we deleting subscribers, nigga. So now I got to make sure that the message come out. So we're basically still working on trying to get to other platforms because the goal is to make sure that we become also a live stream independent from these online platforms. But nevertheless, we still have ScrewTube that we have to rely on right now. And it was basically that ScrewTube had basically not only had deleted certain YouTube videos or essays that I've done in the past. ScrewTube decided that they're going to give me what they call a warning regarding the fact that they said that, that most of my content have been so controversial. I've been giving out what they call disinformation about medical stuff and all this old stuff. See, nobody can have an objective opinion about what these medical people or professionals are doing. So they basically went back and took a listen to my COVID videos and stuff when I told you not to get the shot and all that old stuff, and said, this nigga here is out of control. He's doing too much. They had some weird white boys sitting inside their studios like, yeah, no, I find this to be very Just this is overboard. This is disinformation. This doesn't shouldn't be on our platform. Oh, gnarly, But nonetheless, I'm Lawyer Henderson. Welcome to the Lawyers and Podcast Show. Thumbs up, like, share, and subscribe. Now, tonight, ladies and gentlemen, on the Lawyers and Podcast Show, Jim Crow Joe Biden is about to turn, 80? Well, I think he's 81 or 80 years old now. This old fart is telling people he's running for president for a second term. And ladies and gentlemen, you already know that he's losing support with Black voters. He can no longer to use old rusty dusty Jim Clyburn to come out in South Carolina for him, I should say, for him. And folks, the Democrats are in trouble. Donald Trump is gaining support among Black men. They already knew that Jim Crow Joe was a liar when he said that he had our back when he allegedly won. I'm going to say allegedly won, because I am still with Trump on this, that the votes were stolen back in 2020. Now, nevertheless, we already know that, when it comes to voting, it's not really that the American citizens even vote for the president. There's electoral votes that basically are handed to them, and delegates will cast their votes based upon how many people in their districts are supporting a candidate. So you don't really vote for the actual president. You just vote for the popular one out of the two. But anyway, the Times basically will start us off, and this is fair use, ladies and gentlemen, because this is for educational purposes only. And we're going to go back to the article on April the 12th, 2023 by Philip Elliott of the Times.com. The Time magazine basically hit it off with this article, and the title of it says, Black voters gave Biden the White House. They may determine whether he stays there. Kind of interesting title for somebody from the Times who's been talking about people of color for a very long time, But the article goes on to say here, it starts out that it says, and I quote, plenty of ink has been spent linking Joe Biden's win in 2020 with Black voters. It's no exaggeration to credit his nomination to an unfilled Black electorate in South Carolina's primary, thanks in no small measure to the clout of Representative Jim Clyburn's endorsement in a state where more than half of the Democratic turnout was Black. The through line continues to the November when Biden win over Donald Trump came thanks to the slice of voters who remained loyal to the former vice president and deeply hostile to the man he was facing. If he wins again next year, Biden's final act in public life could be the sunrise flex of Black political power in decades. You see that? The Time is basically stating here that although that they recognize that Black people are not coming out for Joe Biden, but they said, well, just perhaps if y'all vote for him again, keep in mind, he's losing support among Black people in general. The Democrats are. The article goes on to continue. This says that, but quietly, there has been some rumbling inside Democratic circles that Biden needs to do more to shore up his position with Black voters. While polls show almost half of all Democrats would prefer he hang up his Air Force One bomber jacket after one term, his support remains far stronger among Black voters. You get that? Far stronger than Black voters. But just basically tell us, who are these Black voters who actually is supporting Joe Biden, right? And yet, even that number may be going ever so wobbly. We are talking about movement on the fringes of a man state of democratic politics. For sure, recent elections have shown that even the slightest gradation matters. Biden favorability ratings among Black voters have shifted from 84% right after he took office in 2021 to 74% at the end of March of 2023, according to YouGov Economist polling. Okay, that's still better than Biden's 46 favorable ratings at the start of his term among white voters, which has since slipped to 40%. Outside super PACs and friendly to Biden organization have also picked up in these blips, both in polling and focus group in battleground states, and are starting to figure out how to connect with Black voters. Okay, now every election, you know that this is what the Democrats do. They give us nothing tangibles, but then they start to get the white media, the white press, to talk about the Black vote. We need to keep Black people interesting. And this is the game that they have played so favorably among the civil rights generation, that the old civil rights generation tried to get us, the younger generation, to do the same thing, and then tried to get us to pass it on to Gen X and what, and have other, youth coming up. But now we're seeing that the Democrats are not going to be able to play the same benign neglect policy among young people anymore, because the old civil rights generation are dying out here, you see. The Times goes on to write this article by saying, historically, to be candid, Republicans have done themselves no favor in pursuing or persuading Black voters, and there are a few reasons to think that it's going to be quick to change. No, not even Senator Tim Scott's announcement on Wednesday that he would form a presidential exploratory committee, a tangible step that allows the lone Black Republican in the Senate to raise and spend money for eventual White House campaign, is likely to change the micro trends there. The Republican Party longstanding opposition to a voting rights bill in Congress and their years of anthem towards the obstruction of Barack Obama are tough to shake. Some Republicans have aligned themselves with Christian nationalists and groups with link to white supremacy. That all makes for a challenging recruiting pitch to Black voters, even if Scott on his own is a charismatic and compelling figure. Now, bringing up Tim Scott, which is foolish because nobody basically is supporting, nobody in the Black community is supporting no Tim Scott. And that's why he dropped out of the race. Okay. Now, keep in mind, this article was done back in April. Okay. So that is the situation here. So we have to look at that. Okay. And understand what the Democrats and what the New York Times is writing about, basically trying to get us to find another candidate to pick from, even though Black folks are saying, well, none of the candidates are really talking about Black issues, you see. Trump remains the nominal candidate to beat the GOP nomination, and his comparable poll number shows a deeply unpopular figure among Black voters. His unfavorable number fell to 60% at the end of last month in the YouGov Economist poll, down from 93% mark he posted during the summer of 2020. Still, with Biden standing among Black voters on ground more like Hillary Clinton in 2016 than Biden in 2020, it is worth taking a beat to look at the hard numbers and consider why. First, a little history. Since exit polls became part of election data dumps in 1972, no Republicans have fared better with Black voters than Richard Nixon, who managed 18% in his 72 re-election campaign. No Democrat had captured their party's nomination without the Black vote since 1992. Okay, Senator Edward N. Kennedy carried the black vote in 1980 with 44% of the vote, but missed the nomination. And the Reverend Jesse Jackson dominated the bloc during the 1984 and 1988 campaigns. Put plainly, you can't win nomination of the White House as a Democrat without the black vote. Okay. So they're recognizing the importance of the black vote here, but they basically is still trying to figure on how do we basically remove ourselves away from promising black people some things, but not being able to really giving them anything. You know, how do we basically shore up the black vote? And now that black people are demanding tangible benefits, and now is removing themselves away from the Democratic Party. The Democrats are worried about the fact that black people are asking and demanding more tangible for their votes. At the end of the benign and neglect policies that the Democrats have done so long during the Moynihan Report back in the 1960s and 70s or whatever, are not working on this younger black generation. They recognize that. It goes on the Times right that Biden faces no serious primary challenges at the moment. It is expected to fall nicely into historical patterns, but the general election might be a different story. Clinton in 2060 carried 88% of the black vote, a slight swing from 4 years earlier when the country re-elected its first black president with 93% of the black vote. Still, those black voters were relatively met when it came to Clinton's candidacy. Trump didn't seem quite so bad. It had a certain novelty about him. When Biden ran as a nominee in 2020, he carried 87% of the black vote, according to the exit polls. And that was when the voters faced a choice whether they want another 4 years of Trump. And in last year's midterm elections, Democrats drew the support of 86% of black vote. Now, we have to understand when the white media write these articles, okay, and when they start talking about percentage per se, what they basically have to understand, mean, is that you have to look at the people who actually went out and vote or participated in these elections. As I told you, you had about an estimate of only less than 17 million black people who voted in the last election in 2020. Most black folks stayed home, as we told you. So when you're talking about 88% of the black vote that Clinton carried in 2016, you're talking about roughly only about 13 million black people that voted, okay? And that's the same with Joe Biden. When you talk there about 87% of the black vote, he only got at least probably about 9 to about 11 million black people to vote for him. That's why they had to do COVID, because nobody was showing up for Joe Biden at these polls. And so they had to bring COVID in so that they could trick people into thinking that Joe Biden was getting black support. And this had came also with Obama trying to use his 8 years in office to help Joe Biden become president. You see, it goes on to say here at the Times, if all of this sounds statistically negligible, it is. Polling is, of course, imprecise. A margin of error is built into every survey. After all, and yet, it's worth remembering that Trump prevailed in 2016 by besting Clinton by about 80,000 votes in just 3 states. If all holds steady, Biden could well end up in a rematch against Trump, who saw his support among black voters climb from 8% in 2016 to 12% 4 years later. That shift wasn't enough to deny Biden a gig he's been chasing since his 20s, but it didn't happen by accident. Now, Donald Trump is getting more than 12% support from the black community. In fact, if you're talking about 12%, you're talking about 12% of what number, though? Okay? because if he's basically, for instance, if you got the same 17 million that goes out to vote for him, then you got basically the 12% out of the 17 million that votes for him. Well, what kind of number are you talking about there? You see, because that could be roughly somewhere around, let's say, in the millions, 4 or 5 million people or more. Okay. Biden's record on race at this point is decidedly up for debate, too. He made good on his campaign promise to pick a black woman as a running rate. Is that running? Oh, they said rate here, but as a running mate, and put one of the Supreme Court, and continues to this day to enjoy the political riches from those moves. But Biden's effort to get a comprehensive voting rights measure into law have come up short. His attempt to control gun violence are a stymie, as they are frustrating. And it seems like every few weeks an unflattering story about Vice President Kamala Harris, the first woman of Black and Asian heritage in the job, seems to bandy around Biden's chums. Go any deeper in the Biden record and things get sticky. Okay? To be clear, Biden is expected to keep Black voters as a reliable part of his coalition, and there is an insulation from the electorate that, despite its increasing diversity, is still about 70% white. But campaigns are decided in small micro-chants, and with roughly 30% of the electorate steadily reporting they are Black, their voters cannot be ignored, especially if their allegiance grows less intense. Okay? So he can't afford here to do nothing for Black people, and he's already determined that he is not going to do nothing for Black people. So, he had failed on that. Okay. So when he failed on providing like the George Floyd Act or setting up a commission to study reparations, he basically lied. He basically stabbed us in the back as Black people. And this is what the Democrats have done for so many years, that they are used to doing this. Okay. But now the younger generation is saying, no, we're going to need something tangible. We're going to need something there's going to be, something to go out and get our vote. You're going to have to break us off something, So the article wraps up by saying Biden gets this all too well. It's why we saw the president release images of his call last week with two Black lawmakers from Tennessee who were expelled for leading a protest against gun violence. It's why much of the White House and cabinet level travels have made outreach to Black communities part of their agenda. And it's why, even as Biden continues to lay his actual interest to the 2024 campaign, he has signaled to his advisors that they got to keep hitting the mark on building a diverse and exclusive team around him. That commitment may be as sincere as any politician's belief, but it also makes for good politics. And it's been evident for decades that Biden seldom can count on good luck to be lent the advisor. Okay? So this guy here who wrote this article now brought it down to the weak stance that gun violence and blah, 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 and going out, reaching out to the Black community with what agenda? Well, gun violence and blah, blah, blah. Listen, these Black politicians do not control the Black masses. Nobody is listening to these Black politicians, okay? And one of the problems that Joe Biden is facing is he is not giving us anything. He's thinking that if he basically, like any other politician, whether it be Black or whatever, can stall us out to see if we're going to budge, okay, and say, well, we'll basically just let it sit out, and these niggers, they're going to vote for me no matter what. You know, you see, that's what he's holding out on. But he can be no more than wrong this time. Because, like I said, the civil rights generation is dying out. The civil rights generation no longer is running the yard anymore. And these white folks don't know what to do when it comes to the younger Black generation, because as Amos Wilson taught us, that's who white people are really afraid of. Okay. And we have to look at the Democrats as trying to treat us like we're stupid. Gun violence, go in there talking to people of color. Let's make this about everybody else but Black folks, you see. And that stalling, it's not going to work on us ever again. Okay. And so this is the reason why there's a decrease and decline of people wanting to vote. Okay. But ladies and gentlemen, if you think that Black people would not just sit home, or if they would just vote for Donald Trump, that is likely. So when we come back from our second music break, we're talking about Trump not only getting support from among Black men, but he is also leading in 5 key battleground states. We'll take another break in this music break, and we'll be right back. You're listening to the Lawyers Podcast Show. Bringing an end to the Democrats' benign and neglect policies against us, ladies and gentlemen. You're now listening to the second half of the Lawyer Henderson Podcast Show. Like, share, and subscribe, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining me today. And ladies and gentlemen of the Lawyer Henderson Podcast Show, here's the thing about benign and neglect. You see, when Monahan did this report 4 or 5 decades ago, I should say, you know, that was a policy that was working on the civil rights generation. It was a policy that they had put in place and the Democrats had used. And the Democrats have basically been looking at this as, oh yeah, it's work. It has been working for so long. These niggers, they're going to go out and vote for us no matter what. And they're shocked now that the younger generation is not going for this lie, this claim that the civil rights generation have been, going for so long. And as I told you often, if you've been listening to the Lawyers and Podcast Show, I tell you all the time, we've given the civil rights generation their walking papers. Okay. Now, let's turn to what Fox News had to say. Anders Hagstrom of Fox News, I would give him credit, November the 5th of 2023. Okay. But he writes a more important article when it comes to voting again in the 2024 elections that's coming up. He says here in the title, Trump leading Biden in 5 key battleground states as voters cringe at Biden's age poll. Now, because those people over there to the right, or whatever you want to call them, these Republicans, conservatives, they also have the same type of game that they play as well on black votes. So we're not really telling you to vote for Trump. A lot of black people, as we mentioned in the black media and other video essays, are people on other content creators. They mentioned that they will sit it out. We already know that there's a comeback between Donald Trump and Joe Biden, and it's most likely that Donald Trump will win the 2024 election again. But the article here from Fox News, I will also give Yahoo News credit, that Trump leading Biden in 5 key battleground states as voter cringe at Biden's age. It's not his age. It is the lack of enthusiasm by who this man is, his history since he's been in politics, his mass incarceration of black people, and that he basically, not only is he too old, nobody find him to be enthusiastic, okay? So we have 2 white men running again, ladies and gentlemen, for the presidency in 2024. The article goes out to say former President Donald Trump holds sizable leads over President Biden in 5 of the 6 most important battleground states, according to the New York Times Sidna College poll released Sunday. Trump leads Biden by a whopping 10 points in Nevada, 6 points in Georgia, 5 points in both Arizona and Michigan, and 4 points in Pennsylvania. Biden's sole lead is in Wisconsin, where he beats Trump by 2 points. Biden had defeated Trump in all 6 states during the 2020 election. Combining the polling in all 6 states give Trump a 48-44 lead over Biden. The NYT Sidna College poll surveyed 3,662 registered voters in the 6 states from October the 22nd to November the 3rd. Now, at least Fox News gave you how many numbers in the polls, that was polled, and their people who they polled. We really find people that does that in the white media, which is why the polling sometimes becomes so much questionable. Okay, I'm not saying that Fox News should be credible. I'm just saying that we typically don't have, any articles writing about polling or whatever give you the whereabouts as to where the polls came from, where they conducted the polls, and how many people participated. So that's very interesting. But that doesn't mean that Fox News is a reliable source, though. Okay. But anyway, the article goes on to say here, and I quote, that the polling attributes Biden poor showing to a devastating lack of confidence due to his age. Voters say they trusted Trump to be better-handed on the economy, foreign policy, and immigration. Trump performance also came thanks to unprecedented levels of support from black voters, with a record 22% of the demographic siding with him over Biden across the 6 states, according to the NYT. Trump currently holds a commanding lead in 2024 Republican presidential primary, with his closest competitors dozens of points below him. The world is falling apart under Biden, Spencer Wise, a 53-year-old electrical substation specialist in Pennsylvania, told NYT. Wise added that he was flipping his 2020 vote away from Biden. I would much rather see somebody that I feel can be a positive role model leader for the country, but at least I think Trump has his wits about him. Okay. Soon to be 81, Biden is the oldest candidate in the U.S. history to run for president, followed closely by Trump at 77. An overwhelming 71% of respondents told NYT that Biden is too old to serve as an effective president. Okay, among Biden's own supporters, only 50% still say he is too old for the job. So there you have it. There is other, things in the articles about a quote unquote rematch between the two. But no, Biden is losing Black support altogether. Biden has basically shitted in our face. He has stabbed us in the back. He basically has not done anything. And for the Black community, I should say. Let me finish that. He has not done anything for the Black community. And the white media knows this. They're playing games talking about, we're going to go out talking about gun control and all this. Black people are not focusing on that stuff. The white media is basically trying to play the same games that has been playing on us for years, and it no longer work on the younger generation. We basically want tangible benefits. We want our reparations for 465 years of slavery, and these white folks know that that is what we've asked for. That's what we're asking for. Are we asking for a hate bill? And we're asking for other types of tangible benefits or if we're not just going to go to the polls to just vote for you for nothing. Okay. Now, the article also goes on to say that Joe Biden won the White House in 2020 election with narrow victories over Donald Trump in 6 crucial battleground states. Fast forward, and most recent polling in those key states is raising fear regarding Biden's reelection in 2024 as he faces a likely rematch with Trump, the commanding front-runner for the Republican presidential nomination. Numerous national polls and a couple battleground state survey conducted in recent weeks, which had indicated Trump edged Biden in a hypothetical general election showdown, have grabbed substantial media attention. The poll suggests Biden's support is deteriorating among Black, Latino, and younger voters, who have all along been key constituencies of the Democratic Party base. The lack of enthusiasm and declining support is certainly real. No, Chris Henderson, a veteran Democratic pollster and strategist in the Democratic Party on Fox News poll for the decades of the half. Head here to check out. So they're basically saying that Biden is losing ground among Black voters. He is not going to be, he's not going to win. And if he do win, it's basically going to be like, wait a minute, they cheated for him again. There is no kind of real facts that Joe Biden has a lot of Black support. In fact, a lot of Black people say we're going to set this one out because Biden has not done nothing for Black people. Biden is a total disgrace. And then, of course, people are talking about his age. Hey, his age really, in a sense, of course, you could say has something to do with it. But the fact is that Black people know that politicians have to basically say what you're going to do for their constituency. Okay? Doesn't matter how old they are. It's basically a matter of, listen, are you going to do something for us or not? And the answer is, you've already got the answer from Biden. He's not going to do anything. Okay. The article goes on to say here that in terms of where those votes will be next November, I would expect a lot, if not the vast majority of them, to return to the Democratic base if it's a Biden-Trump matchup, Anderson said. I think as soon as Trump's name is opposite Biden, everything is different than if you're evaluating Biden on his own. Another potential electorate hazard for the president is the prospect of independents or third-party candidates, such as Robert F. Kennedy Jr., Green Party candidate Jill Stein, progressive university scholar Cornel West, and a potential bipartisan ticket support by the centrist No Labels organization, which should draw votes from Biden. Here are the 6 battleground states in alphabetical order, where Biden will likely need to work overtime to keep them in the Democratic column. Biden's edged Trump by less than 11,000 votes over a more than 3.3 million cast. He became the first Democrat to carry the state and its 11 electorate votes since President Bill Clinton in 1996. The most recent polls in the state of Arizona for hypothetical 2024 rematch suggest that Trump either slightly ahead or tied with Biden. Biden tops Trump by less than 12,000 votes out of roughly 4.5 million cast. He became the first Democrat to win the state and his 16 electoral votes since Clinton in 1992. And the most recent polls in Georgia for a potential 2024 rematch indicate Trump ahead for Biden from the lower to upper single digits. Biden defeated Trump by 2.8 percentage points to flip the state Trump had captured in 2016. Michigan has 16 electoral votes up for grabs again in 2024, and the polls suggest a tight contest between Biden and Trump in the Great Lake battleground. Biden defeated Trump by 2.4 percentage points to flip the state Trump had captured in 2016. It was the small margin of victory for any Democratic president nominee in a silver state since the party last lost Nevada in 2004. Nevada has 6 electoral votes up for grab again in 2024, and the poll suggests Trump is ahead of the president from the low single digit to low double digits. Okay, so we looked at the whole polls that suggest that Biden is not going to be able to win this again. He is basically suffering to capture electoral votes in these key states here. And it looks like that he is basically going to really get easily defeated after the votes are in. Okay. The article goes on to write here that Pennsylvania will have 19 electoral votes up for grabs in 2024, down from 1 in 2020. The latest survey indicate Biden either even with Trump or trailing slightly. Biden edged Trump by just over 20,000 votes out of more than 3.2 million in the cast of 2020 election. He reclaimed a state that Trump had flipped from blue to red in 2016. Wisconsin has 10 electoral votes up for grabs again in 2024, and the poll suggests an extremely tight contest between Biden and Trump. Rather, those 6 states in particular will be more difficult for Biden. I think we're a little far out to say that, Anderson said. I think it's clear that we have a sharply divided country that hasn't become less divided in the past 4 years, okay? So Biden is basically in trouble, and he knows it because he basically did not do anything for his Black constituency. Remember, he said, well, I will have your back to the African American community, but yet he keeps stabbing us in the back. He did not set up the reparation commission like he promised. And like I said, these folks know what black people are talking about. They're just playing dumb. Okay. They're just playing dumb. And the over reaching and fetching that his age has something to do with it, a baloney. You know, even if he was old, all you have to do is say, well, this is what I'm going to do for black folks. And that's it. Okay. But he is not doing that. Okay. I want to read something that Newsweek, of course, have said about the emerging. They said Joe Biden's support collapsed with black voters, the poll. And this is September 26, 2023 from Newsweek. And they basically said that in a NBC poll released Saturday and conducted between September 15 and 19 through 19, found that president's job approval rate has slipped from 80% in 2021 to 63% among black voters. The same survey of 1,000 registered voters found Biden still holds 76% of black vote to 14% in favor of former President Donald Trump in a likely matchup. Now, like I said, those numbers are off, okay? Most of when you say 76% or you say 14%, like I said, how many people in these polls are voting? And this is the reason that why you don't basically look at certain polls when, you know, the white press is really doing these polls, because they do not tell you that they will ask questions whether or not if a person is a Democrat or a Republican, and most likely they'll say, well, you know, we'll vote for Biden if he's the nomination. You got some of those people. You also don't understand that people who are basically those registered voting out of the thousands, whether or not if they're just old and they're young. So those two important things plays a factor, among other things, when you're talking about these polls. Like, you know, they surveyed, you know, we surveyed 1,000 people, like this Newsweek article say, and most of them say that they still got support for the president and all this stuff. You don't know, though, that we don't know who these people are. We don't know if they are Democratic voters, more Democrats over Republicans. We don't know this, you see. So we have to take that with a grain of salt. But I want to read the last article here that Newsweek decided that it was going to talk about black voters. Okay, and so they don't talk that people of color stuff when they're talking about the black vote. They only say that people of color stuff when they're talking about giving out tangible benefits. But nevertheless, it says here, and I quote, "The president has been plagued by concerns about his age among a wider electorate. At age 80, he is the oldest serving president in U.S. history, but has brushed off the concerns about his physical and mental health, stating in 2022, I no more think of myself as being as old as I am than a fly." Meanwhile, a poll of 702 black women voters conducted between July the 11th and 14 on behalf of the Highlight Project found support for Biden was behind his 2020 support levels by double digits, down to 70% from 90% in 2020. The Black Women's Coalition for Change found support for the president was even lower among Generation Z millennials voters, with 58% supporting him. Okay, now I don't know about the 58% supporting him, and this is the reason why you have to take what the white media say with a grain of salt, because a lot of these polls, and depending on the people who basically are conducting them, they really don't tell you that a lot of younger people just are not excited about the two men who are running. Okay, so you have to look at the numbers that they're surveying here. Like, for instance, when we talked there about the 1,000 registered voting earlier, previously, we don't know what type of black people they are. Are they mostly Democrats or some of them Republicans? We don't know. Okay, they may basically was told to fill out some form and have the options there, you see. So we don't know what's going on because the white media really doesn't report real news. They just tell you what they want you to go with, and that's something that we're coming away from, you see. And that's why they're having a problem with the younger Black generation, because we're just not going to jump on everything like the civil rights generation did, and that's what they're upset about. And that's why we're more dangerous to them. We gave the civil rights generation their walking papers, and these Democrats and their white friends and the Jews and all these people, they are livid, that happened. They cannot trick us no more, you see. But Newsweek article goes on to say that prominent issues for Black voters cited often in the polling were gun violence and discrimination. See, reproductive rights and student debt. While Biden administration have made overtures to tackle these issues, it's been hamstrung by Congress and the courts. So that's the problem. You see what I'm saying? They try to tell us what our agendas are. Okay, our agenda is not talking about gun violence and discrimination. Okay, reproductive rights and student debt. That's not what the Black vote is Black people are talking about in their neighborhoods and communities. You see that? You read that again. Prominent issues for Black voters cited often in the polling were gun violence and discrimination and, reproductive rights and student debt. None of that stuff that they're talking about was on Black people's mind. And that's the reason why I said earlier, you take the white press with a grain of salt, because they're not going to tell the truth. Black people are not talking about reproductive rights, okay? And while it goes on to say that while the Biden administration have made overtures and to tackle these issues, it's been hamstrung by Congress and the courts. Young Black voters tied their activism and their participation to culture. Adrian Shropshire, executive director of Black PAC, told The Hill, there is a cultural element to political engagement and political activation in the Black community. Apparently aware of this wanting support, at the start of September, the White House announced that Vice President Kamala Harris would embark on a 1-month-long tour of academic institutions across at least 7 states with historically diverse student population. In a statement, she described the generation as a critical 80. My message to students is clear. We are counting on you. We need you. You are everything, okay? So they're basically, they're not really talking about the issues that Black people are concerned about. It's the same old dried up things that they've always talked about. They're trying to give us our agenda like the white media has always done. And that's the reason why people, platforms like YouTube, they don't like us, because we are not aligning ourselves with these people that is controlling the media. And so YouTube, when it first started out, we were thinking here in the Black press and the Black media and other media outlets that it was going to be a fair and balanced platform. But when they got the white supremacists who controlled the white media, and they figured, as we often said here in the Black media, that the white supremacists knew that the younger generation was on social media. And they brought with them all of the advertisement of these lawyers who, of course, Black people don't like as well. They brought the politicians, they brought the advertisements, they brought all of the white press and over to social media, because this is where the younger generation was going to be at, okay? The bottom line is that the younger generation is not listening to what these white folks are saying as relates to, about what our political concerns are. we're not talking about reproductive rights. Okay. And even though there's some black people who would like to have their student loan debt, that's for everybody who went to college. Okay. So these white folks basically in the press knows what they're doing. They know that they don't give real news reporting. They know this. And yet the white corporate media is continuing to lie, and they're just going to tell us what our agendas are. You niggers are going to be talking about, we're going to talk about reproductive rights, discrimination. What type of discrimination are you talking about? Discrimination against who? You see, that's why you have to ask those questions, because discrimination, that can be a topic about anybody, you know. So when the Democrats come out, they're talking about LGBT rights, they're talking about this, they're talking about illegal immigration. Joe Biden had flooded this country with illegal immigrants. And he has stabbed us in the back, even though he got most of the black votes. He has given billions of dollars away for every group of people. He has given them tangible benefits. This is the benign and neglect policy that the Democrats had continued on the black voters and the black people. And here you got the white media still lying, talking about, well, the black community is concerned about reproductive rights, and we're not concerned about how is aborting your children reproductive rights? I mean, just answer that question. How is that? These white folks basically, this is the reason why, you come to the black media, because the younger black generation is done with these white people in the press. There is no real, they basically only say black, 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 black when it comes to voting. Okay, and we know that. But when they start talking about tangible benefits, it's all about minorities, people of color, LGBT, distressed neighborhoods. This is your benign and neglect policy that we show you is shrinking. We told you that white folks in this country by 2045, you see? So basically, if they're going to be a minority in this country, how are they going to keep on telling us, what the social issues will be? Okay. And then on top of that, keep calling us minorities. Okay. And so there are numbers, as I told you in other video essays, have already been inflated by those numbers that they get from the Hispanic community and Asian community and other communities, and of course, which basically will have identified with white when they come over here to the country. And then, of course, the illegal immigrants do the same thing. So you may have allegedly 60 million Hispanics or Latinos in the country. But then some of those Hispanics and Latinos are actually black, and they just basically vote as being Hispanic and not black, as we often mention here. And then what about the fact that the Census Bureau have been leaving out black people in the Census Bureau since the 1970s, you see, talking about that we're only still 13% of the U.S. population. How are we going to take over, along with the Hispanics, of being the majority by 2045 if we're just sitting at 13%, you see? And this means that these good white folks have to lie, you see. Especially, that's the reason why them and the white Jewish people got to run the media. And by the way, that's the only reason why the social platforms that we are on, they have to come with their lies there as well, okay? And because they know that the younger generation is not listening to their lie. In fact, the black community and the black community and the black man is also not only uh, basically moving away from the Democrats as well, he is also becoming worldwide in his picking and choosing of what he wants to do as far as his relationships now. Okay. Because in a sense, then the black woman is voting still for the white man in these elections. It's basically a more of a divide and conquer strategy, but that's still not working. Okay, the people are going to want to know what the black man is doing. Okay, it basically you're not going to get away from that. The black man still brings the United States its personality as a sense. We talked there about the fact that the white man system is not going to continue. Everybody think that white folks are going to be in control of this society forever. We got news for you. That's not the case. Okay. But we wanted to basically talk there about Joe Biden's support is declining. Basically, he got these illegal immigrants and black people, not only black people, but Hispanics, Latinos, and others are saying that these illegal immigrants are coming into their neighborhoods in Chicago. They're coming into New York, and they're in other places. And basically, the illegal immigrants that came before them is also protesting. Well, how can you protest against the illegal immigrants that came today when hell y'all came over here yesterday? Okay. And so the ones who's been in the country for 2 or 3 years are now protesting the ones who coming over today. You see, the fact of the matter is that this was supposed to be Joe Biden's plan, his policy. And this is the third phase of Reconstruction. We told you that Obama did the second phase when he passed the DACA laws. And I told you that we can no longer support the Democrats, and we're not. We told you about Obama, Bill Clinton, and Joe Biden, and these white liberals, along with these Jewish people. They basically try to find ways to keep black folks down in a segmented labor market. And now they are dumping these illegal immigrants into our neighborhoods and communities. Okay? And the Latinos and Hispanics, remember, everybody owes the black man an apology. Everybody owe it to without black men, America would not be a country without the black man. Remember when I told you in the video essay, if you've been listening to it, that the emerging of a new black man, that the black man is now demanding more in this society. And he is also basically what? Becoming an international prospect for doing business, relationship, and even his marriages and relationships overseas. He's no longer going to be just sitting in the United States listening to the white man babble about nothing. No, there is an emerging of a new black man, as I told you. Okay? So the support and going out voting for the Democrat and waiting on white men to do something for us, those days are coming to an end. A real fast, quick end. You see, and we basically are not doing the same thing that the old civil rights generation has done. The civil rights generation did not set up an economic system for us. They got us married to this Democratic Party, and it is the younger generation now that is going to divorce us from the Democratic Party. These white folks are out here talking all this crap about Joe Biden still got this percentage points out of black votes. And when you go out into these polling, next time you go to these polling booths, look at the decline of people who have stopped going to the polls. It has basically decreased over year after year after year. Okay? And so that is a huge problem for the Democrats and white folks in general. Because when people start to say, "Well, oh, wait a minute, your, uh, you know, your, your system is not working anymore," okay, then if that happens, that means that the black man is finding an alternative. He's even finding an alternative to his women, who, by the way, have been basically running the white man's businesses and not being a housewife to the black man. So he recognized that, okay, since the black woman is caught up in running the white man's businesses, then we are going to what? Go overseas to find love. You see? I told you in the emerging of a new black man, listen, the black man, of course, is recognized. And I'm not saying necessarily I agree with this, but the black man recognized that he can have a black child now with any other group of race of women. Okay, if he get with a white woman, he got a black light skinned child. He get with a Hispanic or a Latino woman, he got a black and Hispanic child. He gets with an Asian woman, he got an Asian or a Japanese child. He recognized also in Africa, he still has what? A black child. He recognized that if the black woman is not going to help him to reproduce and going to keep on wanting you to wear condoms in relationships, then that's a form of genocide. And we're sick and tired of that. And so they recognize that basically that we could have relationships in the world and do not have to use the American black woman in a sense. Not to say that we don't support and want her, but her priorities is basically running the white man's business right now. And until she get the priorities straight, what is the future hold for the black man? And he's becoming basically an important figure. The emerging of this new black man is not going to be supporting no Democratic Party. And by sitting home and not voting into the white man's system now, they can no longer play games with us. No longer basically can they really trick us into voting. Now, before I leave here on the Lawyers and Podcast show, for the second half here, rapper Cardi B came out and said, "Hey, if something happened to me, I was criticizing white daddy, Joe Biden." Okay. But in this article by Joseph Ellis, the Cardi B says, and I quote, well, this article says, rapper Cardi B has criticized President Joe Biden for budget cuts in New York, expressing concerns about the impact on schools, libraries, and the police department. She also voiced worries about the Bronx and criticized Biden's handling of the economy and foreign policy. Cardi B's change in attitude towards politicians has been met with mixed reaction, with some praising her and others questioning her previous support for Biden. Now, remember, Cardi B have supported Joe Biden. She had this red hair back when he was running for president and stuff like that. And so now she basically came out and said, well, I don't support him or the Democrats or whatever. And so she goes on to say, and here's the truth, right? In New York, there is a 120 million budget cut that is going to after school, public libraries, and public departments. Y'all know I don't give a F about the cops, but it is what it is, she laminated. They're going to be a 120 million budget cut with schools, with libraries, and cops, and a 5 million budget cut in sanitation. We are going to be drowning in effing rats, predicted the rapper. Mind you, this is why I said I'm not endorsing no effing president no more. We got all these cut, yet Joe Biden's talking about, yeah, we can fund 2 wars. We can fund 2 wars. Mother, you talking about? We don't got it, but we got it. We're the greatest nation. No, the F, we're not. We're going through some blank right now, promised Cardi to her followers. Where are these kids going to go? Like, I'm lucky, I'm blessed, she emphasized. I'm whatever the F, but what's going to happen to my nieces? What's going to happen to my nephews? What's going to happen to my cousins, my aunts, my friends that's living in the hood, asked Cardi. Her criticism of Biden is part of a growing trend of Black and Hispanic voters turning against the president. New York is already effed and super dirty, and we're going to get even dirtier with the effing budget cuts, cautioned the wordsmith. They don't want to say the word, but we're going through a recession right now, she added. The point is, we can't fund these wars. We can't barely effing fund this country. Finish it. Y'all need to finish it, she demanded. Stop fronting like you got the effing money. You don't got no money. You don't got no sugar for your honeys, declared Cardi B. Now, here's as relates to New York, by the way, just like Chicago, Black people are pushing back. They said, hey, we're going to turn, next election, 2024, we're going to turn Illinois red. We're going to turn New York red because, Biden had brought these immigrants, these illegal immigrants over here. And Biden basically is doing the most. He is giving these illegal immigrants small increments of payments out of our reparations money. You see what I'm saying? And therefore, basically, he is telling Black people that he can't do anything, that they don't got it, but yet they are funding these illegal immigrants to take over our neighborhoods. Make it make sense. Ladies and gentlemen, like, share, and subscribe to the channel. You all have been listening to the Lawyer Henderson podcast show. I know y'all be wanting me to come on, but Scooter, like I said, got me on a permanent shadow ban, so I just have to come on when I can. You've been listening to the Lawyer Henderson podcast show. We're going to bring the phone lines back, in the future. But we have to basically allow, let ScriptTube tell us, that they're going to open up the mods and all the other people, let them know the algorithm that we could come on and talk about this, but it's up to them. They still got me on the shallow band, but I don't give a damn. You've been listening to the Lawyers and Podcast Show. Leave your comments. Like, share, and subscribe. And also, don't forget to hit the cash out. You've been listening to the Lawyers and Podcast Show.